call meeting to order at 10, whatever time it is. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Since we don't have three voting members, well, we have a voting member. We have a voting member?
Did you not want any voting members before? You said the
Yeah.
voting member list?
Yep,
So we have quorum now?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, David. You know Andy Vasquez? How about we introduce ourselves? David, since you just walked in, introduce yourself.
David Ryder, Public Transit.
Andy
Nice to
Vasquez,
meet you.
County Council.
And Mr. Paul Hegan, Dave?
Hi, Dave.
He's Drainage Advisory Board from Porter County also.
Okay.
So, anyway, we called the meeting to order and did the Pledge of Allegiance, and now we're gonna go over the minutes. Is there anybody that here, David, were you here last time? So
I believe so.
Okay,
I'll go ahead and.
okay, so minutes are okay, so without exception, we'll approve the minutes. We don't have to have a motion for that, technically, by Robert's Rules of Order, although we typically do ask for it, but since we weren't at that, were you in it?
The last one, you gave me the information of that, I don't think I was at the actual meeting.
Okay,
Oh, that's something-
so anyway, without exception, we'll approve the minutes. Unless there's any further discussion, if there's no further discussion, minutes are approved. Okay. Emergency Regional Update, E-Man, would you take it away? 3.1, 2050 plus update, land use housing.
Yes. Good morning, everyone, and as you may know, that like we adopted the 2050 plus in June, and we are in the process now to look at next steps and implementation. So specifically, we have some recommendation coming for this section of the plan, land use and housing. And I'm going over that today, and what's the assignments will be at NERC and also will be reviewed and overseen by the land use committee. So the first item here showing that like when we came up with the recommendation for the future land use plan, we still have like 85% single family homes within the whole region, which is significant number, which is fine. 85% is fine, but the thing is we have some area has very low density of housing, like 1 unit per acre, sometimes 1 unit per 2 acres in some area. So in this one, we are not like, we still need to have like duplexes, multifamily homes and others, but like it won't be dominating as other area doing. So, and we are not also looking for a very high density as a solution for that. And we try also to have less land conversion to urban use and try to maintain the agricultural land. So in this one, that's the future regional plan requirements. We have expectation to grow and become a 900,000 by the year 2050 in the next 30 years, which a growth rate of about like 0.5% on average every year. And to reach that, we are requiring to have a new 50,000 residential within the region in the next 30 years. We also require an increase in the urban development density, so we now looking at between 4 to 5 units per acre on average. So some area, the exurban area or rural area, still will be between 1 and 2 units per acre, but some other area could reach 6 units per acre. And that's an example here showing the village of Burns Harbor. They have about 6 units per acre, and it's a very successful plan. It's still single family homes, but now they're looking at mid-sized housing, and that's based on the affordability and also based on what's required here within the area. Also, we are required to have about 3.9 or almost 4 square mile of industrial land and about 2.6 square mile of commercial land. So that's giving us, for the next 50 years, what's our needs and how we're gonna distribute that within our region. The next slides here showing we did like a good detailed housing analysis within the area. We have a housing information for every community based on the population and the household income. And as we see here, the green line here showing if we are lacking housing, which we are lacking here, either like own housing or rental, and this two category for the income between 50,000 and 75,000 for the household, we have plenty of housing. And this is basically any housing between 75,000 and 200. So we have plenty of these housing, but what we need for the very low income people making up to 25,000, they can afford a house of 60,000. We don't have enough for these people, and what they do, they just go to the next category, which they cannot afford. That's something that we're lacking, and we have in every community showing the number that is needed for this number of communities. On the other hand, we also lacking any housing over 400,000 up to 1 million based on the income. So we are requesting any housing over 30,000. 400,000. The other two category is between 250,000 and up to 400,000. So this is still needed. So now when we work, with developers, we can tell them what's required. We need this number of housing. If they wanted to look for any future development, they have to look at this number of housing and the needs to build like maybe housing between 250 and 400,000, because that's the most desirable number that consider affordable for most of the people within our region. So what we're doing here with the land use and housing and next steps, we have a number of recommendations and goals. And based on that, we try to look what can we do in the regional planning level, and also for our funding, the transportation or the TIP Transportation Improvement Program. So how we're gonna allocate funding to meet our goals, and also local planning. We have a significant recommendation for local governments to consider, and also some of the education that we have to provide it for our communities here, and of course developing them. So based on that, we looked at some tasks here that we have to do it in the next 2 years. It's a lot of tasks. Maybe we need to hire a planner to do that, but so we're taking some of the goals that could be converted into tasks that we're doing here at NERC. So the first one is to introducing new uses to the site, including residential components. And in this one, we're gonna look at identifying opportunity areas. So we have some recommendation of the area that should be preserved, or area that could consider urban area, or it has a high quality agricultural land, so we shouldn't develop in this land. So we gonna identify, work on that, and identify opportunity areas, and see, if you really, this is suitable for this type of development. So we can make recommendations from the regional perspective, but we can't make any changes on zoning or ordinance. That's up to the local government, but it's our role here is to give them some guidelines, and also we can specify our funding to serve the regional goals. So that's what can we do, but we cannot force communities to do anything like that. And of course, here identify, they have identified opportunity points, sorry for that. Develop favorable planning and regulatory practices for the middle and high density development. And that's, as I mentioned, like either 6 units per acre, or if we can provide duplexes and fourplexes and some multifamilies and townhomes. That's the need that we needed, and we can find, just guide communities to this type of development. They have really very nice design and good practices for this type of development, and that's something that we could share with the local communities. The second task here, the goal is to identify priority infill development strategies and sites, and also establish projected densities and residential diversity within the region. The second goal is to plan and execute a special development program for Gary, especially for Gary. They have significant demolition, and they have some sites that they try to redevelop, so we will try to see what can we do for Gary. But the first task we're gonna do with that is track infill development in the last 10 years within the region, and more specifically in older communities. The next task is based on goals. Northwest Indiana will provide a variety of housing choices, including the missing middle products that I mentioned before. So you're gonna perform a housing analysis and identify housing needs at the regional level. And also create a community housing snapshot. Based on all the analysis that we did on the 2050 plus, we have like a specific information for every community, and as one of the tasks, we're gonna have this snapshot about some of the housing information and the housing needs, and we're gonna share that with each community. The next task here is based on the goals, establish urban surface boundaries for each municipalities, the area within which would be reserved for urban density development on city surfaces. So we're going to create a GIS map for urban surface boundaries first, because we're lacking this data and we would like to know that. And then prioritize funding for projects within urban surfaces. They will receive more funds with the already development within urban surfaces area. The next task, the goal is establish a boundary between exurban residential development and agricultural areas, and the task will be to designate the prime agricultural land that allows agricultural use of land and agritourism. Also, we're going to identify vacant lots in the designated rural growth area with adequate public surface. As we mentioned before, it has to be within the urban surface area. And in this one also, that allows rural residential land use, retail, churches, schools. It's still trying to get all the surfaces within the rural area, but it won't be like as urban area. Also, the designated rural growth areas, and determine if these lots have commitment by the local government for sanitary and sewer services. So this is the task that we should investigate for the exurban residential development. The last one here is apply the concept of corridor urbanism to new and existing emerging corridors, and I think that's something favorable will be for Willow Creek, if we can do the corridor urbanism. And in this one, basically, they here propose like intense development around intersection, higher density, and also the access will be in the middle of the block here. Not, of course, we don't like support any access for all of the land use here, from the corner. It's better to be in the middle so it won't impede the traffic. So also, we wanted to improve the street environment with the sidewalk and some streetscape. And then provide a secondary street network. So that will always provide better connectivity and also won't create like a congestion corridor. So we have to make sure when we plan any new roads, like Willow Creek, that's something will be achievable. So we have to make sure that it's connected to a parallel road to the major roads. So that's something, so we are promoting that, the corridor urbanism and the retrofit and new corridors, and also identify corridors that could be re-envisioned and applicable to corridor urbanism. So either for new corridors, or if we have to re-envision some of the corridors, we can see how feasible to do that. So that's the major tasks, which is, I think, for the next 2 years. It's not only 1 year. And then the other tasks here is, that's something we're looking for, is to establish a topic-based training series of the Sensible Tools Handbook. We have different elements of the Sensible Tools Handbook, so I don't think we can have training for all the elements in one session. So we're gonna focus on climate change, or focus on mobility, focus on transit, EJ area. So it will be a different training, and that's something we're gonna do it here internally, try to figure out how we do that and how we're gonna do the training and workshops.
And for the new members for the commission and committee, will they be able to get Sensible Tools handbook copies?
Yeah, we printed. We haven't
Okay.
printed yet.
Okay.
We can print it, per request here internally, but like we are planning to have a professional printing soon. So once we have that, yeah, we can distribute.
Yeah,
Is it on the
well,
website?
something that they could,
It's on the website, yeah.
Okay, the approved version, the final version?
Yeah, the final version.
oh, it is on the website finally?
Yeah, when you go to first page, you have plans, click on plans, and you will find it with the list.
Okay, Sensible Tools
Handbook plus,
plus.
yeah, because we have the old.
Yeah, I think I still have the old one.
Yeah. So the other task also, that's something we would like to do here, is to map and analyze access to parks and open space in EJ areas. We wanted to really investigate that and see, if some area could turn to open space and parks within EJ area to have like more accessibility within the residential area. And then the third one is to map and analyze population, housing, and jobs data in walkable and transit areas. So we wanted to see how many people, jobs, and that's really important because if we have a walkable area and we don't have enough population and jobs, that's an issue. So, and we need to identify that through some mapping and analysis. So we have like a busy schedule for the land use and housing and for the land use committee too. Once we go over this work, we're gonna talk internally, talk to Tom, how we're gonna organize that and how we're gonna spread that over the next 2 years and prioritize which part should we start with first. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
You said something interesting that force a town or a city to enact any of this. So how do you prevent, say, a particular city from wanting to build only $300,000 plus homes and not give any attention to lower income housing? They had a forum for low income housing in Valpo the other day. Invited everybody. Pretty much nobody showed. Okay, there was no interest in it. So how do you take a plan like that and make it to the benefit of all, including that municipal entity, that they should do something in regards to lower income housing? Is there any way? I mean, here's an example. We're talking taking the gentrification of the Miller Beach area in Gary. I grew up in Gary.
Oh.
I graduated from Gary Emerson, so I understand this whole thing that's going on with that. And if you put $1 million homes on the beach, that's nice, but very few people can afford them who actually live in that area because they haven't got the infrastructure for the the job market unless they're working in Chicago or someplace like that. The big engine that drove everything was the steel mills, and that's pretty much been depleted. So how does this plan get enacted if a government entity does not want to go with it?
It's not like, you give a good example of Miller, and now they're gonna have a new location of the train station that's happening, and we are trying to focus to have a mixed income around all of the train station, because, and also not just the train, the bus system. So we try to focus on, these people need transportation to move to their jobs. And that's the area that should be, some communities considering that, try to meet the income, but some other communities really having issue. And what's happening is people moving out of these communities to other communities that they can afford. So, and that has to come from the communities themselves, how to keep like a good diverse income within your area. You can have, you talk about, like maybe Valparaiso itself, they have a lot of good EJ area. But like talking about Munster, for example, these area, it's not like, when you look at the low income, it's very minimal. And what they're gonna do, they're gonna push them now to move to Hammond, to move to Gary, to move to other areas. So we can force that, but like we try to educate them as much as we can. But however, with we're gonna go over the criteria and questions when people apply to receive funds from us. We're now giving more points if you have affordable housing. If you have, so we try to somehow, have some.
Get their interest, if you will.
Yeah.
If
So,
I can jump in, if you can go back maybe a couple slides to the implementation, that one.
yes,
So those 2, 3, 4, 5 things are kind of like, that's the authority that Richie has, right? We can do regional plans, which NWI 2050 Plus
yeah,
is an example of that, and identify priorities and goals for something like affordable housing. That plan has a wealth of information about relative affordability in each community. So that's one activity that we can do. We have, as Eman said, we have the TIP, so we have funding of transportation projects, and we can weight
yeah,
the scoring such that communities are rewarded if they have affordable housing.
What I thought was, go ahead.
Just if I can just run through the list, and then local planning. So we have the ability to partner with communities to help them. Either we can participate in stakeholder groups, or we can, in some instances, help fund local plans, which will then, if we're funding them, we can then have strategies included, and exactly. And then education and data are kind of closely related. We can, again, develop the data, publicize the data, show people what is going on, and then help them understand the value of affordable housing, or whatever the local policy may be. So that's, I think, and like, for example, the Sensible Tools Handbook has information in there that can be used to educate and help communities work through that. So that's but ultimately it does depend on, local government making the final approvals on development projects or drafting ordinances and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
I was gonna add that, there are always gonna be $1 million homes on the beach. Matter of fact, someone just built one right at the entrance of Marquette Park. I mean, we didn't even own this developable land. But what's interesting is what's happening in Etna, where houses were going for $14,000 4 years ago, and now they're going for $250,000.
what?
People are buying.
Where?
And flipping. People are buying and flipping in Etna. I had a friend in Indianapolis. They were thinking about an investment property in Etna. They opened up a real estate website, they closed that real estate website real quick. Because they've been priced out.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Where in that are they putting out?
They're
Like I said, I'm from that region.
rehabbing, they're rehabbing.
My next door neighbor
They're
was
taking
principal
these
at-
old three-bedroom slab-on-grade houses
Yeah,
and gutting them and presenting them in Instagram reels. At least one of them is, oh gosh, I forget the name of the account, but yeah, I mean, they've been doing, it's more than one developer at that.
really? See, having grown up on the east side of Gary,
Mhm.
and used to hanging out at, either by the bus or walking up that area,
Mhm.
I cannot see anybody paying, in my mind, $250 for a slab house, unless they took the slab out and, did something
No.
else with it. They're just
No.
putting it on the slab and
Yeah,
rehabbing them?
they're rehabbing, new siding, they're doing some similar work in the Lakewood area, which is right around the corner from where I live. Those houses are already in great condition, but they're gutting Hoosier homes and upping those.
I know to a degree they did this in South Haven, because I bought my house in South Haven for $19,000. And when I bought my farm down in Morgan Township, I got $98,000 for the house.
Same thing's going on. And in Beverly Hills recently, I believe a judge put a lock on new development until they come up with an affordable housing plan. Beverly Hills, California.
Can they
So
do that?
that's extreme,
Yeah.
but that's, if there's no affordable housing, opportunity, they're starting to legal ramifications to it.
So then it would be up to the local planning boards, see, because in my mind, what I hear at a county level is people build subdivisions, and then they have problems with it, and supposedly they have homeowners association, which the state has no teeth on which to do anything with, okay? So then it becomes part of the county's problem to do that. So how, I guess what I'm trying to say here, to put in my mind, is that the local entities of zoning and planning, how to get them on board for this, so that when they do have developers come out and do an entirely new subdivision, which they have the mix of diversified residential in there, how do you entice them to do so? Other than what you said?
It has to come, you have to have a strong, council
Okay.
that approve that. But I give you example, Aberdeen, for example.
Okay.
It has housing from 200,000 up to over $1 million. And then they have condominiums, and they have apartment for rent, and it's all within one subdivision. And that's a good example, you can have the mix of use, you're still in a nice area, but you have other rental, you have other condominiums, small apartments, they have small housing on the back of Aberdeen, which is about 1,700 square feet, and they have up to 4,000 square feet. So when you give this variety, that's a good mix.
Well, the apartments in Aberdeen that they have there, I had a daughter who lived there, they were cheap. So that would not put for the $25,000 a year income individual couldn't live there. They would not be able to afford it.
But the apartment is for 200,000 and 150,000. So they have some apartment, the condominiums. So that's what I'm saying, but you still, and you have 300,000, you have 400,000 up to $1 million. But it's all within one subdivision. So, but that was a good practice. Yeah, it was a good practice, and that's the village. I'm always giving example. It has apartment rental, it has condominiums, and it has a small housing, it has a bigger housing. So that's a good mix. So you can mix income. People can still own their houses or own their homes based on their income. So, but we have, the communities has to approve that, because I know some communities, they said, we're gonna build the condominiums, but high-end condominiums, because that's the requirement now, and people looking for that.
I'm looking at two houses in Miller, the one on 11th Avenue, one on 11th Place in Clay, both going for 175.
Really, I know where them, like that.
175.
Wow.
It means also that the lot is expensive now.
Well, the lots are probably getting built, they're being purchased for a song, and they're putting all the investment in the building. And, I live right next to Indian Boundary near County Line, if you're familiar with the Miller Beach area. And now, those vacant, lots that, have been sitting and, are all wooded, they're putting up for sale signs.
And
So
it
the
sells
market is
fast?
there.
It
Some of them are
can
selling
be-
fast, yeah, and some are just building, vacation rentals. Someone built all new construction at Indian Boundary and, I forget what road that is, Warren, and it's just a vacation rental. And it's just income property. Great house, beautiful house, just income property.
I was going to say this for community update, but I think it might be appropriate now. Union Township has met with Veritas, and I'd like to meet with a couple of other people for planning ideas, but 8 years ago, as Z-Man recalls, we had a group of planning to come up with what we're going to do with the 30 square miles in Union Township and Porter County. And that's why I'm so happy to have Councilman Vasquez and Paul Hegan here from Porter County to help with the possible implementation of coming up with a concept and a plan, because we have no city or town, so we rely on the county for our services and advice and support. But we met with Veritas last month. No, I think it was first part of January, to envision the project to establish a group, which I'd like to see if we can listen to some people from here to be on that planning group to come up with a concept as to what we can and can't do. And then some of the things we're going to talk about is the project launch, which would be getting people to be on that committee like we had before. And I think Kevin Breitsky again will be on that because I've had conversations with him. And he's unable to be with us today, but we're going to figure out demographics, economic analysis, existing conditions analysis, community visioning, to invite the community to figure out where we're going and what we want to do. Stakeholder engagement by getting data from different people. Growth area identifications and where things are going to be so that people have a plan as to where we're going. We haven't had a comprehensive plan in Porter County, by the way, since 2002, as I recall. And hopefully we'll regain the support of the county for being able to come up with this comprehensive plan. And of course, land use modeling and a public town hall to discuss it when we figure out where we're going and how we think we're getting there. And then the comprehensive plan will compile a document so that we can do something like Veritas did with Cedar Lake and with Winfield. And also would like to have a couple other planning groups to come up with some opportunities to see which one the county selects, because Union Township doesn't have the funding to do it, and we have to go through the county for it. So, and of course, once we get to that point, then the final presentation, and then we either have a town or whatever we're going to be when we grow up. So anyway, I thought this might be appropriate instead of announcing it as community
Yeah.
updates.
That's good, thank you.
So, thank you.
Question,
Yeah.
is there any examples of where they've been able to construct affordable housing at 60,000? You were talking for the lower,
Apartments, like will be more apartments?
is that what it is
Yeah,
typically?
yeah,
It's-
that's, but housing, it's really, yeah, so,
I mean, they are doing that in areas then.
yeah, but like it's usually apartment, like one bedroom apartment. And
So this would be new or just older apartment complexes that are renovated?
yeah, older one renovated, or if they planning to, they can have like a small square footage
So
for these people. they
large
can-
urban areas where they have these bigger complexes typically, or?
Yeah, it's
Oh.
usually, and again, for low-income people, they wanted access of transportation.
Sure.
So that's another thing that like we wanna
So a lot
focus
of
them.
times you don't have those two together, so
Yeah.
there's really no plan,
That's-
kind of new construction, do they, kind of thing, it's just not affordable.
Yeah, but with all of this, train station that's coming, the Westlake Corridor, and also the double track now, so we would like to have like these people near transit, either, and even with the GPTC, around Broadway and other areas.
Right.
So that's the area that like we really encourage to have like a good mix of income and also considering housing for low income, so they can have accessibility
Sure.
of transit.
Paul, one of the things that, with the housing for lower income, you're looking at your average builder doing about $175 a square foot. Sound about right on a house?
And,
On a house.
If you take a 1,500 square foot house divided by 250, you're coming out with about
Yeah.
$175 a square foot. So even if a person with a minimal income, say of $40,000, they can afford a shed, and they're not being facetious.
No, that's what I was wondering, how that would be realistic.
It's more, they
I'm
would
not saying it-
seem to be
yeah,
more inclined
it just
to
sounds
be in an apartment rather a house.
Yeah, it's more apartment, and sometimes they get help from the government, from different programs, so.
That would be an initiative.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
something that we discuss it on the Sensible Tools Handbook, that like we lacking housing programs in Indiana in general on the state in comparison to other states. We have very limited programs, and that's something has to come from the state level, and the community can apply that to have like more programs that could help people.
So our state legislature would have to try to work on that and.
Yeah,
do something for it.
that's the recommendation coming.
We're promoting existing opportunities. I mean, there are some tax credits that are available, but they may not be known, and there may not be a desire to use those credits outside of Gary County, Chicago, and Michigan City, Florida.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you get to the enforcement, maybe Karen Stick, that NERC's got federal funding to try to get communities outside of that urban, inner ring suburban core to actually start diversifying their housing stock. Give them a reason to. Or a bad reason not to.
That's a good discussion.
One last thing, with the plan that Union Township is thinking about, basically, we have Sim City here. We got a blank slate compared to having to tear things down and build things up again. So if we plan properly and come up with a sensible, something that makes walking around sense, while we have a relatively blank slate, I think that's advantageous too. But I don't know how that fits into the federal programs and all the other things and hurdles that we have to come through. Moving right along. Yvonne? Anything else?
No, thank you. I'm trying to get the Excel sheets. Excel doesn't.
Okay, are we doing the spreadsheet next? Yes. Dr. Nova?
So, Tom, can I ask you to explain something about the NOFA or the tip, what we're doing?
Yeah,
Sorry if I put you on the.
Yeah, happy to. So every 2 years, NERC adopts a new transportation improvement program, which is a short, this is do we have 6 years in ours? 24 to 20 years?
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years.
With one illustrative year. Program of transportation projects. So what this is one of our core documents, and we're required to essentially identify all federal funding that is coming to the region that we're administering, all federally funded NDOT projects as well, and develop a fiscally constrained list of projects. So we have the sources of funding on one side, projects that we're going to spend the money on the other side. And we have that set out for 4 years. In order to develop that list, we go through what's called a notice of funding availability otherwise known as NOFA, which is the process that we use to select projects. So there's a kind of like, think of it as a call, we issue a call for projects. If you have projects that you would like to see funded through NERC, you submit your application, and then we review them according to a set of criteria that's been developed collaboratively between the NERC staff and the topical committees, such as the land use committee. And that funding and those applications are kind of put into different categories. And different topical committees evaluate different categories of projects. And then ultimately, the committee makes a recommendation to our technical planning committee, and then our commission adopts the TIP, which is the acronym Transfer Transportation Improvement Program, TIP. So where we are now is this fall, we will issue a NOFA and begin collecting projects and developing the next TIP. So in anticipation of that, we have all of our applications being reviewed by the topical committees. So if you were here last meeting, we went through one of the applications.
We went to planning.
Through the planning application?
Yeah, planning application. If any communities wanted to submit an application to do like any sort of the approved type of planning, they go over these questions, they get the scores, and then when we do the selection, in the end, it's based on the score. The higher the score is, the better opportunity to receive the funding.
There are some projects that are grandfathered in. For example, well, one example is close by is Willow Creek. Phase 1 is scheduled for like fall, November, roughly, of 2024. Phase 2 has been pushed until the 5th year, which is outside the TIP.
Yeah.
And so that would be something that would be that, and the other half of that's over in
Kennedy Avenue.
Kennedy Avenue. So
Yeah, so-
those are the examples of things that are outside the TIP that would be grandfathered in. And I don't know what the numbers are for super priority or how that works, but.
Right, so, and I think you raised a good point. So it's a 4-year program, but we do it every 2 years, so it's kind of rolling. So each year, it's not like a blank, we don't start with a completely blank slate. There are certain projects that have already sort of been funded, so we're looking primarily at the out years. But if you get a project into the program, it can always be potentially moved.
So you
Forward.
retain continuity with it.
So, so I think the goal for today would be to review.
Specifically for the transit-oriented development area, so transit planning and transit implementation. So before going, just to give a background for the new people, NERC on the initiative of the West Lake Corridor and the double track and also other area bus station area, put a transit-oriented development program funding. And we identify some funding to fund any project within identified 15 station area. So we have 12 from the train stations, Westlake and South Shore. And also we have stations in Gary, 2 stations in Gary at the IOM area. And also we have the other one by 11th Street, and we have another one in Maryville, which is the Century Plaza in Maryville, which is the intersection of Broadway and US 30. So these stations, and one in East Chicago. So we have downtown East Chicago. So these areas, the bus stops area, also eligible to receive the funding in addition to all the train stations. The current one and the proposed one, which is coming next year for the West Lake Corridor. So based on this funding that now we're having available for transit station area, we put a new application here So we modified the planning application to meet all the requirements that we need for the transit-oriented plan. So if we go over here on the side, we have here the project types or the type of programs. So if I want to refer to the program that we established here at NERC, we're looking at the TOD planning type of projects. And that's specifically the TOD planning for bus stations only, because the RDA and NICTE hired MKSK consultant to do transit-oriented development for all the train stations along Westlake Corridor and also the South Shore. So they don't need any planning funding for transit-oriented development anymore. So we're offering now the planning for transit station for the bus stations. So that's what's available for the bus stations. But other eligible area plans that like we could give it to all the stations now, the train station, the bus stations, we could provide, they can apply for a wayfinding plan, living streets plan, which is for all mode of transportation, including the freight deliveries, road and sidewalk connectivity plans, and the road diet or right sizing plan. So these other plans that will be in addition to the transit-oriented development plan. So the next category, we also provide policy support for a transit-oriented development. So if a community wanted to have affordable housing ordinance or have like a sort of policy for affordable housing, we are allowing that, so they can apply for that. Equitable developments outcome, that's another thing. And TOD design guidelines. Some communities, they have already a station, but they don't have a transit-oriented development ordinance or a transit-oriented development guidelines. So that's something that they could apply here at NERC to hire a consultant to do that. We could have any other, like a zoning overlay ordinance, as I mentioned. Others, that's like they could come with another policy idea, but it has to be approved by NERC and the land use committee. I don't know what will be this idea, but like if we feel that is really applicable to and is gonna benefit the transit station area, we can approve it. So that's for TOD supported policy, and then the TOD implementation. In this one, that's going for constructions, and that's like a multimodal connectivity and accessibility, like a bike lanes, or they want to have a sidewalk, better connectivity to the station. They can, we can build that for them. Site preparations and also living streets, which is more like a stormwater management. They wanted to have that within the area. Specifically, we have like a policy here at NERC, so they could check the policy and see what kind of stormwater management or have like a planting area that can help with the stormwater management. So that's for the implementation. We have also, if they wanted to have extension or modification or relocation of any of the sewer lines and water lines, or stormwater management improvements, that's also will be eligible under this type of funding as long as it's within the station area half a mile. Wayfinding signage, they can also install signage that help people and guide people to different areas. Street lighting signage, pedestrian sidewalk, bike lanes, bike racks, crosswalk, benches, any of these streetscape elements that can enhance the environment and encourage people to walk safely within a transit area. And then other related improvement, as I mentioned in the first one at the policy, they can come up with other idea that could be approved by us first and then take it to the land use committee to approve it. So that's all the type of project, from the planning to implementation that could be eligible under this type of funding. So we have certain questions from the planning application before, so if we can move quickly to the questions. Question 1 here, so I added here, will the project improve the walk and bike score within the area? So whatever projects coming, is that really will encourage, promote people to walk and have like more amenities within the area? If so, we can look at the walk score and bike score within the area. And we have a website, so people can go to the website and try to select a certain area and certain location, and they can provide the walk score. That's the process, by the way, for the new people. That's what people do, usually come up with the score. So if we have the score below 50, that it means it needs improvements, and that's will receive more points. If the area already have a high score, that means really, is not really improving walkability and bike score because it's already high. So we are giving funds for the people that needs to improve their walkability or biking within the area. Anything to add in question 1? Okay, moving to question 2 here. It was planning project before, so now we're adding policy and implementation. And so the question is the same here, if it's related and that connect to jobs and services area. If the area within half a mile, we have a map showing the concentration of employment areas, and they will check this map, but for the train station that connect to downtown Chicago, that's another map we're gonna add, because we have major employment centers that taking people by the train to downtown Chicago. So that's something that we could add. The points is not final, we're still gonna work on the points, but this is just to give you an indication which question, like taking more scores than others. Question number 3 here, that was the same, but like what's the other transit access within half a mile? Because we are assuming that the application will be within a TOD area, but if we have others, like if it's a train station, but still like having a bus stops within the area, they will even receive more points. So question number 5, that's completely new questions. Here we're talking about if the project here incorporate features that improve transit system access, such as transit information system, wayfinding, signage, lighting, sidewalk improvements. If we have more elements here, they will receive more points, and that's another new thing here, specifically for TOD area. Question number 6, please stop me if you have any questions. Just because we have so many questions, I'm trying to move from one to one.
One real quick statement, not a question, only is for years, my friend, I have seen where we're trying to get things so we can get people to Chicago. I talked to Austin Vance about Portage and Gary for that matter even. I think we're looking at this backwards. Why don't we do this so that we can bring those Chicago businesses and people to us, as opposed to us to bring more?
Yeah, but they
Economic
don't come
development.
from downtown. They come from within, like the Cook County area or Wayne County area, and they come to work.
Good project right here, World Finest Chocolate.
What?
World Finest Chocolate took the 60 acres
Yeah.
here, and they're gonna
Yeah.
build destination chocolate.
I'm also, I think in my mind, you got all these nice tall skyscrapers and whatever it is in Chicago, could we not build it not necessarily that tall, but of that structure and bring some of those businesses down to us, and therefore having those people coming out to live in this area?
That's improvement of the street network. That's something that we could do to bring people here, and we were talking about that at Wayne County. They are working on The
We
good
need-
comprehensive.
We need sewers for that.
Improving the,
A longer transportation.
yeah,
We need
Yeah.
infrastructure. Sewers, infrastructure, that type of thing. Because if, without that, businesses don't want to come.
but also like, look at St. John, for example, it's growing very fast, and mostly people coming from Illinois. But they wanted to have the higher pay job in Illinois, but live here because we have a lower taxes and cheaper than Illinois,
Yeah,
or the
great.
Chicago area.
Top businesses, we have cheaper taxes, come on down.
Yeah, so we attract
Well-
residential more.
And it's interesting too, yeah, we were just on a call with Will County,
Yeah.
Illinois, who are doing their long-range transportation plan. And what they've found is that, and this just kind of anecdotally, but they're gonna start looking at some actual data and traffic modeling. At least in eastern Will County, the residents there are coming to Indiana for their jobs and for their shopping and that sort of thing, because it's a very rural area. The taxes are so high, it precludes any type of commercial development. And their options would be go to Orland Park or Bourbonnais or somewhere, or go to St. John and Cedar Lake or Crown Point for their shopping. So they're actually doing kind of what you're suggesting, like a reverse type of a commute. Not really a commute, but.
Right.
And I think nothing in our plans really are precluding that type of a reverse commute, but we just want to acknowledge that, I mean, downtown Chicago is just not
It
a
is what it is.
center, so.
It provides like better opportunities, better jobs sometimes, so, and that's a good thing, that like we can provide accessibility so people can get like a good chance and better pay and better jobs. I think that's because we are considering like a suburb Chicago. You know, like we are closer to Chicago in some, like some communities,
Indianapolis.
really, yeah, than Indianapolis, so,
And I think there's sort of, not to get too far from the whole criteria, but there is sort of an evolution that I think that could take place as far as, say you have a lot of people who are living in Portage, commuting downtown. They're working as, you know, accountants or attorneys or whatever. At some point in the future, somebody's gonna realize, hey, we've got this concentration of people who are living here. Let's open a business here.
Well,
Let's open an office here.
If you look in Sherwood and Aberdeen, there's people that commute to Chicago
yeah.
every day. They own businesses in Chicago, and maybe they have a place in Illinois too, but their primary residence is right there in Porter County.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they have it, I know Lake County has the same thing with things like that.
Lake County has like over 70,000 people working in Illinois, so.
See, in my mind, that northern area of Gary, up along 7th Avenue on the way down, we're looking at a lot of abandoned houses, buildings, and businesses. That would, in my mind, be perfect if you wanted to use money for future growth down there and bring those businesses down and help revitalize that city, because, you know,
That's why you say we need a special program for Gary.
yes.
So that's one of our recommendations.
In terms of employment though, I know Jennery presented, I think, on the Economic Development District plan about a little over a year ago. I thought a lot of the numbers were interesting. In terms of the number of people in Northwest Indiana that commute, not to Chicago, but within Northwest Indiana. There are more people who work and who live in LaPorte County and commute to Gary than in Chicago. To Lake County than Chicago. There are more people who work in LaPorte County who commute from Gary than from Chicago. There's a lot of commuting patterns within the three-county area that, not saying we ignore commuting into Chicago, but making sure that there is reliable transportation, and yes, public transportation, I'm biased, within that service area where most of our employees are working within Lake and Porter counties is important. Not at the expense, I mean, we invest in getting people to Chicago, but not at the expense of getting people between Gary and Hammond or Crown Point and East Chicago.
What happened? When I was a kid, I could take the bus from 7th in Illinois, where I lived, and go all the way to see my aunt in East Chicago, using the bus system and transfers. What happened?
Well, you can still get between Gary and Hammond and East Chicago, it's just we pretty much had to begin rebuilding that from the ground up. And when the RVA folded, there was pretty much nothing for several years until we started some additional service in the Hammond area. Now, we work well with East Chicago Transit, but they've been having trouble, especially, after the start of the pandemic, with keeping those buses on the street. And we pretty much had to rebuild what we're doing in terms of transit west of Klein Avenue. We are going to be starting service into Whiting in a few months. We wanted to do it a couple of weeks ago. We just didn't have enough time to train our drivers to go, for that route. The route's already in place, and we've got the timetables. We just need to get it started. We're using CMAQ dollars that NERC will provide us. But basically, outside of our core area of Gary and Maribel and down to 93rd Avenue, we're pretty much having to rebuild transit west of Klein Avenue.
So, we're just moving, I think we have 20 minutes.
No, it's 6.
Yeah, question 6, yeah. Yeah, but
Sorry,
I don't want to hold you for so long, but yeah, question 6 is specifically, how does the planning or the policy project provide like any sort of plan, like a good practice or good planning to improve the quality of life around the station area? That's somehow the challenge, but like what we're looking for, if the community has a land use plan or a TOD plan or zoning that allows a concentration of a small scale convenience shopping to support and attract small businesses or enhance an existing business area. So that's one of the things which is very important within a TOD to improve the quality of life. The second will be the project or the policy or implementation, increase the number of users within the area. So they have like sort of zoning, land use, the future plan, just showing that like they will have enough services or amenities within the area that increase the users within the area. Question number 7. Here, also increasing transit ridership, supporting more intensive development, supporting street network connectivity, and enabling mixed-use development. And if they are providing any of these, they will receive more points. And also, number 2, integrating urban living infrastructure amenities, housing, water and sanitation, energy, communication technology, waste management, street network. So this is like some of the area, like Doom Park, for example. Some of these areas they don't provide really, like the urban living because of the National Lakeshore within this area. They have a station, but they don't have all of these features. Of course, they're still eligible to apply, but in comparison to other areas that are providing all of these infrastructure and housing, they will receive more funds. Question 8. Here is the planning or policy implementation projects. Incorporate elements that help create a sense of place and build a unique local identity, include paths and gathering places, nodes, pedestrian scale elements. Of course, that's a sense of place. So people wanted to have like a pedestrian scale features. They have artwork, they have sculptures, if they have like any board talking about the history of the area or something specific, that's really showing the identity of the area, and that's will receive more point if they try to do that. Nodes and gathering places for any events, that's something favorable in a transit-oriented development area. Question number, what is the number now? 9? Okay, that's also looking at if the project required changes to the local plans or development regulations to remove barriers. So if we have any barriers to the requirement of a transit-oriented development area, and we already have a local plans doing that, they will receive more points.
Can we focus on that? All right, so are we incentivizing bad previous planning in this question?
Yes,
Right, because, I mean, you know, a large community, or a community that has a bit more diverse in terms of land use patterns may not have those barriers, or they may have, you know, form-based zoning or things like that, that already solves part of the problem. Maybe the plan or construction project takes advantage of that. So we're not giving, so we're kind of penalizing a community or an organization that has already solved the problem. That's what I fear here.
no.
If
If
you
they
give
have,
5 points for a project that removes a barrier that's already there, what if the barrier's already been solved?
yeah, they will receive a point. Because it's, maybe we can tweak the questions, but it's the new application, you know, like, or if you already have a plan, maybe I have to clarify that. If you already have, we have a barriers to a transit-oriented development. So if you have a planning a subdivision with a cul-de-sac or a dead end, this is not like a requirement that should be in a transit-oriented development. So
Right.
I'm giving an example. So it's not like a good, strong street network, connected street network that encourage people to walk and reach the station easily. So if you already have it, if your new plan, you know, like try to improve this type of obstacle or barrier, you will receive more points. If you already resolve it and you don't have this issue, you will still receive the point. But I will work on that language for question 9.
Yeah, please do, because for instance,
Yeah.
the JeffBet planning effort in Hammond has eliminated a lot of those barriers in its planning, but we can take advantage and try to make some improvements beyond that.
Okay.
Pebble Beach, the city and the federal government went into that area and, you know, created a plan to make it more walkable. So do those plans basically, because they've already solved a lot of the problems that a TOD plan would build on,
Yeah.
would they still get those points? Or would they, I mean, yeah, just take a look at that wording, because I don't want to incentivize bad or antiquated planning.
Yeah, but,
ahead of, you know.
but for example, if you're doing a TOD plan,
Mhm.
okay? And in your scope is, you know, you wanted to remove this barrier, you know, in the plan that you are trying to develop.
Right.
So that's something, we're not talking about existing, this is for any new plan. You
Right.
have a TOD, you have some issues that really make it hard to become a transit-oriented development. If you are requiring, you know, an ordinance or a land use change or to connect roads or street to improve connectivity, if you are, maybe I will specify that more.
Okay.
But this is the barriers, you know, like if you don't have the requirement of a transit-oriented development, and if you are not recommending that within your scope, that in your application, you won't receive a point.
Okay. I'll wait for, you know,
Yeah, for the change.
Any, yeah, tweet wording.
Yeah,
All right.
okay.
Thank you.
So question number 10 here is also if the project introduce or include equity and inclusion programs or plans or equity focused policy, they will receive more funds. Here, the next one here. Forget something. Does the planning policy implementation project area, that's number 12, currently have or propose an appropriate mix of land use and transportation improvement to support housing choices to prevent intensifying poverty areas and increase transit ridership within a quarter mile? So that's the one that we're focusing also and to include affordable housing, or if we are supporting that within whatever implementation or policy or planning project. Okay, any question on that? Okay, move to number 13 here. Does the planning or policy implementation project leverage contributions from other public or nonprofit entities, such as the RDA? They have the TDD funding, the local government tax abatement, tax district, state or federal government, low-income housing tax credits or public loans or financing, any sort like that, or grants. So, or private foundations. So the more sources that you have, you will receive more funds. That's the end of these questions. The next one, does the planning policy implementation projects include the private sector participation? Because we are encouraging the partnership between like public sectors and private sectors. So I think that's the major changes in this application. Otherwise, it's the same questions that we're having in every application. So if it's a legacy project, if they already received funding before, like Willow Creek or Klein in New. So because we want to continue and finish this project to the end, so they will receive more projects if it's a legacy project. The other one is the project advances the local plan or policies. And this one, we have that in every application. So all of the rest of these questions are the same. That is not in red, just a few words in here and here. But moving to question number 27, that's a new one. And in this one, here focusing 27.
Which is a little hard because we got 25.
Yeah, mine ends at 25.
It's not printing?
Oh, wait, there's more.
You found it?
No,
No, so I
Oh,
was
that's-
just, it was just.
it's not in the thing, no.
Oh, you didn't get all the, that's weird.
That is weird.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it didn't print.
Maybe we can get the copies of the,
They go the PDF.
how many questions are there total?
27.
28?
Nine.
Oh,
Oh, 29.
yeah, but 27 is the new questions here, and maybe I can zoom more.
Maybe you could read it to us, 'cause I can't read it.
Yes, if you're so kind.
Unless you can blow it up.
You wanna go up? Okay.
Probably be easier just to read it to us.
Yeah, but yeah, we got it. Okay, does the planning policy implementation project address climate change challenges and plan for the heat waves and higher temperature? Install better draining treatments to deal with the floods and stormwater, improve water storage, and use, and to improve air quality and cutting carbon. So that's something new. We are required now, like from the DOT is to include the climate change and consider that in our plans and our efforts here and funding. And that's something very important because I have a map showing that. With the application, I'm gonna provide a map showing the area that have heat waves over 60 days a year, and also, or if they have also a flooding, a specific flooding area, how we wanted to make sure within the TOD or transit-oriented development, people will be biking, walking to the station as amenities. So we want to make sure that they have enough shades from the heat waves, and also making sure if it's in the floodplain area, we have to have a good stormwater management within this area. So they will receive more points really if they are considering that within, if they have a policy to consider that, if they have a plan and have recommendations specifically for that, or implementation, if they wanted to, for implementation, to provide solutions to solve these issues of climate change. So that's very much the questions. I think I'm gonna mail it for all the committee, but at least if you're fine with this application, you can have like recommendations here.
We have a-
With the change of the question number 9, I'm gonna change the language.
Or recommendation, entertaining a motion to recommend to the commission, the adoption.
To the, actually to the technical planning.
To the
committee.
TPO.
TPC.
So I think the process that we're following is that all the
Yeah, we all.
topical committees are reviewing these now, and we've gotten a lot of different input. Some of it's more clear, some of it's less clear.
Yeah,
There was other committees where they said, well, I don't know if we like this, or we want to change it, but it wasn't very clear as far as how to change it. So, excuse me, our plan would be to take all this back and then sit down again as a staff and just kind of go over it, make sure it all makes sense.
What are we looking for? We're looking for to refer to committee. Is there any further communication or any discussion?
It's a recommendation of this.
What the recommendation is to send it back to the staff, and we're okay with what they see? Or
Yeah. Okay.
Refine it.
yeah.
is any other discussion? Anybody have a problem or wording changes or? So,
Aside from question 9, I think,
Yeah.
just getting some understanding of that one.
okay, so that for information, to send it back to the staff, we don't need a motion or anything at this time. Okay, thank you very much.
That's fine. So in April, it means in April now that like we have to do like a final recommendation.
Now, will this type of information, or is this information going to be made available to like potential planners or, contractors, vendors, or like, for example, Union Township? comprehensive
It's
plan?
once we have a final, but like I'm gonna make some modifications here and based on our internal discussions, but I will email it to all the members of the land use committee,
Mhm.
so they will be
Do we have
aware
a
of.
current land use committee listing? Because I'm not quite sure with the change in, the annual turnover, if there's any changes to committee.
We have changes.
I know there's some people who may not be here anymore.
Yeah, some people lost their positions and we have to modify the list, because I know that each
And if
is
you
not with.
let
the
us know
corporation.
who's on the list so that we know
Yeah.
who we
so-
need to call to make sure we have a quorum.
Okay, so we're gonna update the membership list and add the new people, making sure we already added some of the people, but some of the people has to be removed, so they still welcome to come and attend as the
And I
planners.
did find that Kevin Brinsky is at a Hebron Design Barn project.
Okay,
And So that's the reason why he wasn't here today. And
Yeah,
I had that on my schedule too, and I took it off because we moved it from last week to this week.
so I think we still have, we welcome commissioners, more commissioners to come to the land use committee. So we have 3 now, you, Andy, and Kevin.
Mhm.
So I think that's good enough to have 3 commissioners. And then once we update the list, I
Mhm.
will work on that with the floor.
And
We're
and
gonna
Paul
send
Egan
it
will
to
be a
you.
member, non-voting member?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we can do that.
you good with that?
Sounds like.
All right. That
We
that
already
concludes
did
that
the
portion of the program. Now we have the legislative updates now. Legislative updates, you may.
Okay, we have like 3 updates today, and that's new in 2024. The first one here is we put House Bill 1172, and that's, they have now a committee on climate change, or climate resilience and economic growth. So the governor put this committee, and it's still under review, referred to the Committee of Environmental Affairs. But in this one, the governor want a report by December of every year, from 24 to 2027. So they want to focus on climate change and have this annual report to the governor. The next bill here is House Bill 1185, and that's for road funding. That's specifically before what they used to do, distribute the money coming from the motor vehicle highway account and local roads and street account to the counties and cities and towns based on the proportionate share of the road and street mileage. So based on each community, how many miles of roads and streets, they give them the funding based on that. So now they want to change it and to do it based on the vehicle mile traveled. And I think they wanted to give to the people that has more traffic, give them more money. And in this one still, they are required, the Department of Transportation Indiana here, just to come up with the guidelines and procedures here to determine how they count the vehicle miles traveled. So that's the second bill, and this one is still referred to the Committee on Roads and Transportation, so they're still working on that. We'll see what's the action.
Only if they include public transportation miles traveled, because if you've got people in buses and trains, they aren't in cars. So a lot of DOTs tend to forget that those miles exist. But if I'm in a bus, I'm not going to trip a traffic counter, but I'm in a bus with 25 more people. So there are ways of doing that. And if NDOT can acknowledge the existence of transit in the bigger cities, then it's more accurate. But that's just kind of,
I think it's good to reach them and let them know they have the representative in Eugene and that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next House bill here is 1237, and that's annexation. I'm not sure again if that about Aberdeen as I mentioned or not, but they wanted, it's the same, almost same language. They allow a town or a city to annex, number 1, if non-contiguous residential development, and also number 2, the right of way of public highway. If they connect to this development, they have the right to annex. But so this is, it looks like a new one. They had one last year, so I don't know. They get approved. Right? It looks like, yeah.
This is the Aberdeen.
Yeah, it looks like Aberdeen. Yeah.
But I hope they're not trying with the other subdivision. I hadn't heard anything other than Aberdeen.
Yeah. So
yeah, I just realized that. I'm like, it's
it was
specifically
actually
from that.
the first one was
authored by
It was
some of you.
specific, wasn't it, the last bill?
Yeah, he was the main author of the bill. This time he's a co-author, so, and he got to
I guess
read
we
from
need to talk to Mr. Henry.
Indy. Yeah.
Real quick, Iman, Senate Bill 52, it's Indianapolis focused. It's Aaron Freeman and his chaotic and idiotic efforts against Indigo. That would be, it would outlaw exclusive bus lanes. And he wants to be specific to Indigo, however, depending on your interpretation, the bus bypass lanes we installed on, that NDOT is installed on Broadway could be considered bus lanes. So we couldn't do that in the future if this passes.
Oh.
Secondly, there is Senate Bill 187. People Supreme wrote about it. It's a dumb bill. I'm in a safe place. It's a dumb bill that would forbid a transit agency from providing free transit on election day. Yeah, that's all it would do. That's all it would do.
I mean, wouldn't that be suppressing the vote?
Yes, that's what it is.
Let's call it
We
what it
couldn't,
is.
we couldn't say it in the press, but it's a voter suppression tactic. Yeah. And it's starting to become a national embarrassment. It hasn't gotten a hearing yet, but it's hitting the national news as, what the heck are you doing?
I think I read the 52. Is that about the dedicated lane?
Yeah, that's
in
about
India?
it.
Yeah, I read about that, but I thought it's specifically for India. That's why I didn't include it.
He, I don't know what the current wording is, but every year, he does that, and Fort Wayne is looking into BRT. Wilmington is actually starting planning for it. And the BMX is, bouncing back, here faster than South Shore. Actually, it carried more people per revenue mile than the South Shore last year.
But I ask, what is his reasoning for that? I mean, other than the obvious, I mean.
He got up on the wrong side of the bed. He didn't even know all the facts. He thought that we were basically eliminating fares. No, AARP paid everyone's fare. They said, how much is your usual ridership? What's your usual fare recovery? They wrote us a check, and we just didn't charge fares that night.
So if the fares are being paid on the election day, business is as usual, so why would it stop?
Exactly. He didn't even realize it was AARP that paid for it, and it was a reporter that informed him of that. And he had to, him and Ha, talking about, I forget the guy's name, but he hemmed and hawed after that. Yeah, the buses are already gonna be out there. We're not spending any more money, and we're not losing money because AARP's check cleared, so it's just a history.
One last bill, if we're ready to just, 1251, is there an update on 1251, which is the emergency additional funding proposal by House Leader?
From Porter County, I can tell you this. I just recently had a meeting with Ty and Dave Hollenbeck, a couple of days, Monday. And it is my understanding that without the other county council members, I can sign the paper to be done. I'm not doing that, and I'll tell you why. It's an 80-cent increase, which is more than double. I'm one of 7 council members on the county council. If 4 members do not want to do this because the impact they feel is too heavy, because we just barely passed our budget this last time around. If 4 members decide they do not want to do this and want that bill to maybe be looked at again, that's going to be my end result. It's too much for one individual, I think, to give that type of authority to make that decision. As soon as I got this House bill, I forwarded it to every single county council member, and even though the commissioners aren't, in regards to voting on this, are not required to, I sent it to them as well, so that all are informed as to what's going on with this. The main concern with this particular bill is it gives a automatic increase from the way we all read it to the body as opposed to asking the county every so often. Granted, nobody's done anything since 1992 in regards to an increase with emergency. And then shame on everybody, basically, for not having put an inflationary item in there with it. So we're all at fault for that. However, the county council members, I signed the paper with the understanding that I'm one of 7 who was signing yes. Mike Brickner, the president of the council, he signed the paper, so that's 2. We get 2 more people on board between now and soon, tomorrow, yeah, then we'll be doing fine. When I'm leaving here, I'm contacting other county council members, and, that's great. However, with all that being said, it may be a moot point because the River Lake County's doing it. If they decide not to do it, it's pretty much a dead deal, isn't it?
That's the indication that we've gotten from Mike Lager.
So, regardless of what we do, let's say if we finally get 2 more people on board, the county doesn't go for it, it's, gonna have to be rewarded. And I think the problem that everybody's having with is the automatic increase. And we have, the wording in regards to, we don't have any say-so as to the amount of increase, or, they've taken it from one modality to 3, it's how to determine that increase, and that's another thing.
But at least I want to thank you, Andy, for taking the initiative to do that, and I think this might be a start for something where we can get something more palatable to those who haven't signed on to it, so that we can take a smaller bite of the apple to get up to that point at a certain point in time, and then consider having inflationary increase on a regular
Unless
basis.
it's approved by the legislation, right?
And the
They approve
the legislation approves it, yeah, that's fine with the council, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But state come and say, yeah, we've increased the amount of money that's coming out of the average citizen's
Yeah.
pocket.
But
They- they
otherwise,
more
it's
time for
there
that.
too.
Yeah.
Not that it matters.
That's just being honest about it. So, but that's where we are in Porter County. We're working on it. Like I said, I'm keeping in contact with, as a matter of fact, some of these phone calls I got while I was here with our other, council members, and like, so talk to them and see what we got.
Yeah.
I signed it because I believe it's something that needs to be done, even if it is a big bite of the apple, as George put it. We haven't done it, it's like Willow Creek. 1987, we started talking about that. I started coming here as an average citizen to these meetings in 2000. I wrote a little proposal in 2012 for the 2040 development things we saw in Jersey. So, yeah, I'd like to see something done, but let's.
But the
We can-
county and the community is receiving funds from us. And that's give them better opportunity. If we increase the local match, we can access more federal money. And you can apply, actually, instead of figuring out within your county how you're gonna come up with this budget to do this plan, you will have a better opportunity because we only have like 20% match and 80% federal. So we can match more money, so you can get better opportunity to have work done, actually,
Yeah,
for the
it's an
counties and
investment.
municipalities.
And I believe that it's a good investment. The hard part for, I represent the south end of Porter County. A lot of this money is being sent, we're not gonna see. We're primarily, rural, residential and agricultural. I'm a farmer myself, and I
6
come all.
townships and 3 precincts in
So-
Portage.
However, when I came here at the end of last year to one meeting, I made a statement that what affects the north affects the south as well. All of them was time, and everybody has, unfortunately, doesn't see it that way, but that's how it's gonna go. We all know it sooner or later. We're all gonna be in the ground by the time it does, but it's going to, so we have to make plans for it. Once again, having no oversight in regards to how much is coming out of our pockets every year, and it's a mandatory out of our pockets, out of our realm, that's the problem. And unfortunately, like I said, right now, 2 out of 7 members signed the paper, so we'll have to wait and see by tomorrow.
If there's 4, we're good to go.
We're going to go.
But it's not looking,
No, it's not looking good.
anyway, thank you very much for your support, Andy, and maybe it's a bit of traction for the future. Anyway, thank you. Is there anything else for community updates? Next meeting is scheduled for April 24th, 2024 at 10 o'clock a.m. 10 o'clock. Okay, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all,
Okay, bye.
appreciate it.
Right.